This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of This Empty Chair. I got two amazing guests here with us this evening. I just met Eli 2 weekends ago at the Nifons, and this is my first time meeting this young woman, in which I might have met you there, and I just don't know it, but because you do look familiar. So we have an amazing show tonight. Together right now, you're looking at 48 years of recovery between the three of us. So we're here to let you all know that recovery does happen, can happen, and will happen if you put the work into it. April is Alcohol Awareness Month. Over 140,000 individuals lose their life each year to excessive alcohol abuse and use. So that's why tonight or every night we do this show. It's just to continue to bring awareness of alcoholism, drug addiction, but most importantly, that there is hope and there is a way out. And tonight you're going to hear two amazing testimonies on how these individuals have survived. Tonight's show, get his picture ready, is dedicated to Justin Stout. Justin is a son, a father, and a friend to many, and he is missed by everyone, his family in North Carolina or Tennessee, all the people in Portland, and I know he's missed mostly by the two of you. Want to give us a little bit about Justin and who he was?
Well, so I met Justin when I first got sober. I got out of rehab and they shipped me to Portland, Maine, and my roommate in the sober house I was living with was friends with Justin, and what's funny is both Justin and I did not like each other when we first met each other. We actually really did not care for each other at all. And slowly we became friends, and I sponsored him for a year. We'd go work out together. We'd go, we were pretty tight. I miss him a lot.
Yeah. How long ago did he pass?
It'll be a year, 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, Justin Stout's family, our thoughts and prayers are still with you, and his loss is felt in the community, and that's why they're here tonight to continue to carry a message of hope to all of those. So I see you. I want to take this time to thank Officer Danny Sinclair of the Newburyport Police Department. She allows me the opportunity to report overdoses for the Merrimack Valley. Since January of this year, we have had 116 overdoses, with 10 of those being fatalities. And that is in the Methuen, Andover, North Andover, Lawrence, and Havel area alone. 2022 ended with 1,134 overdoses and 161 of those being fatalities, and those was for Essex County. And again, I only say these numbers so that we can continue to try and decrease the stigma that's attached to this disease and continue to bring light and hope out into this world. So that's what our goal and our mission is. I also want to thank all of our sponsors. I didn't tell you, folks. So throughout the show, you're going to see a banner of different sponsors. These companies purchased that banner. So it's a win-win. The money that they used for their banners to be advertised here, it goes into a account. So if someone needs scholarship money to go to sober living, we write a check, and they have to meet certain criteria, and then they go and we pay typically for the first month. We've also paid for individuals to get their recovery coach certification. So throughout the night, you're going to see the banners going by. So I do want to thank Bob and Andrea Surrett of Alternative Healthcare, the Fritz family at Atkinson's Flooring, Sid Harris of Discovering Methuen, Enterprise Bank. We love Enterprise Bank. Essex County Outreach, again, which is Officer Danny Sinclair out of Newburyport. Essex Flooring, which is Fred Orazio and his employees, one being my husband, but it's all good. We love it. Also, Greater Lawrence Family Health Center, the Haven of Hope. I'd like to thank Saeed Coates. The Lawrence Methuen Community Coalition, which is Harold Magoon and friends. The Meta Addiction Services, thank you, Matt Simpson, and also one of the girls that's on my board, which is Christina. Thank you for all that you do. Tattle Boxing in North Andover. Thank you to Lauren McCauley and Patrick Kelly. And a big shout out to R&R Welding and Fabric. And as always, I like to thank Costa Broadcasting for allowing us to be here. And the best producer behind that window is Ruth. I was going to say Ruth. Yeah, Ruth. Yeah, Lou Blasey, who supports our mission, who's here faithfully and couldn't do this without you. So thank you. Some upcoming events is MVP ASAP. As we know, we are the experts in prevention and education, and we continue to remain busy by being the local resources at several events. We were at North and Essex Community College Resource Night. We were yesterday at the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce Wellness Fair, and we're heading into the Spring Jam at the Haverhill campus at Northern Essex again. This past Monday, I was telling you guys, CARES Initiative had Maine Works present at their resource night. And if you want to type in mainworks.us, because I want them people to have that. Go to comments. We'll figure it out. And
where do I type?
Down the bottom of that column on the right.
Far column on the right. Try
Down the bottom.
down at the bottom.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out on a commercial break. So we have Maine Works, and what an amazing concept. And I love that you two knew all about it because obviously you're from Maine. So now they're reaching out to Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And for those of you that don't know, Maine Works is an employment organization for individuals who have just gotten out of prison, out of jail, and those that are just looking for work and can't find employment. So they came in and shared how they'll give work boots, like they get them everyone prepared. Right now it is manufacturing and construction. However, they are reaching out to other organizations. So I was really impressed with it. One of my favorite parts was that they do tattoo removal for free. So if individuals have any facial tattoos and they want to present at an interview, they would take them through that, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, they do a lot.
They
There's a lot of
do
heart.
a real lot. And it was just, I'm actually going to meet the owner, which is Margot.
Yeah.
I think she's coming out to the police station this month
Cool.
to meet with me, which is pretty cool. So we also have weekly happenings. We have the Circle of Hope, which is a family support group over at the Methuen Police Department. We meet 6:30 to 8. If you need more information on that, you can reach out to Phil Leahy. Every Tuesday evening at the Ray of Light Cafe, we have Celebrate Recovery. That is at 92 Merrimack Street in Haverhill. For more information on that, you can reach out to Diana. We also have a Recovery Coach Academy coming up in June. I don't know the dates that they're doing it. However, you can reach out to 857-361-9913, or you can reach out to Diana Teal for that as well. I always like to bring the Phoenix Gym into everyone's forefront. They have a full schedule listed on their Facebook page. Lots of classes and opportunities, and all you need to be is 24 hours sober, and it's free. Free is for me. And just a reminder that we have aerobics at the Methuen Police Department. Every Tuesday and Wednesday night, 5:30 to 6:30, there is a drop-in fee for $10. And if you want more information about that, you can just reach out to me. And I think that is all I have. So now we get into the good stuff of hearing your stories. First of all, willing to go any lengths. Thank you for driving over an hour to come here to be with me tonight, to share your testimonies. And I look forward to learning a little bit more about you. And so I'm going to hand it off to you to tell us, how'd you get here?
Oh man. Well, it's definitely been a long road. And you know, the thing that I always kind of premise with is so my sobriety date's June 25th, 2012.
Nice.
So I'll be coming up on 11 years, and what I like to say is I did some things this morning, right when I woke up, that helped me stay sober. And I'm going to do some things before I go to bed that are also going to help me stay sober. And, I did those things yesterday, and I'm going to do those things today. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do them tomorrow too. So I don't look at, so much the time, but what I do know is that if I continue doing those things, the time has shown me that I got a pretty good shot of not having to do this, like get sober again. I can just stay sober, and be recovered. So I was born in sunny Southern California in Costa Mesa. I moved to Maine. Well, my parents moved. I had very little to do with it. My parents moved to Maine when I was 4. And I grew up in a little town called Damascotta. It's about an hour north of Portland, which is where I live now on the coast. And I mean, my first drink was 9, and I loved it, and
What was it?
Jägermeister.
Whoa.
My dad gave it to me.
Whoa.
My family's listening. I'm really sorry. But, it definitely triggered something within me. And, I quickly fell. There was a whole group of us kids who, we were the kids who would, sneak a little bit of booze out of our parents' liquor cabinet, bring it in a Poland Spring bottle, combine it after school. And, there'd be vodka, tequila, rum, whatever we could put in there. And we'd drink it, and then we'd smoke cigarettes and skateboard. And this was, like 10, 11 years old. So it was like, from an early age, and like, I was always like relatively smart. My dad calls me the smartest dumbass he's ever met. And
like that.
yeah, I wasn't sure if it was, I was like, thanks, I think, like, I don't really know what to say to that. But alcohol began making decisions for me before I really even knew that it was. So, I graduated with honors. I was in AP classes in high school and stuff. I was a smart kid. But I really had no like direction, and I was always feeling like distant and not a part of, and I never thought I was good enough, and I wanted to get out of where I was so bad anyway, to get out of myself. So I wound up going to university in New Hampshire, and I picked that college because it was the one where a whole bunch of fraternity brothers literally yanked me off the streets and got me drunk.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going here. This place is awesome.
The things we base our decisions
yeah,
on.
exactly. And well, I knew that I wanted to go into environmental science, and literally my thought process for that when I was 18 was like, well, I enjoy being outside, and I really enjoy smoking weed. So seems
Nice.
like that's 2 pretty good things that'll go with the environmental program.
Yes.
Because I wanted to be a game warden or something. I wasn't really sure. And then I joined a fraternity there, and I'll tell you this, I didn't graduate college, but I definitely came out of there with like a PhD in alcoholism, because that like taught me how to drink.
Yeah.
Taught me how to drink.
Yep.
By that time I had, started racking up arrests. One story that I do tell a lot is, so I was going to a fraternity party, and they were drinking jungle juice. And I remember I walked in there at midnight, and they were doing a toast. And this is why the classical thinking of an alcoholic like will come out in this story. But I ripped a glass out of this girl's hand, and I chugged it, and I threw it on the floor. And she's like, swearing me up and down, and I was like, tough cookies, go get another drink. Well, I blacked out 30 minutes later. I'd actually gotten roofied there, and I woke up in jail the next morning, and they told me that I was like trying to stumble home, and I couldn't talk. I could barely walk. And that's not what makes me an alcoholic. What I like to think, and one of those like red flags, if you will, was that I considered myself a hero.
You saved
for
her.
that. I saved her.
You did.
I was like, if I hadn't been there, if I hadn't drank that, who knows what had happened?
I know.
No. Instead of looking at it for what it really was, is like, wow, man, like you're out of control.
Yeah.
What were you doing there anyway? But I started, I think in Mass you call them DWIs. In Maine we call them OUIs, because in Maine, you can, get an operating under the influence for like a lawnmower or like a boat, because people actually do that up there.
Yeah. My friend got pulled over on a big wheel. That was his first OUI. Yeah.
So
At 16. And he pulled over, and the cop goes, license and registration. He's like, remember that story? Yeah. Okay.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I have 3 of those. It should have been 4.
Nice.
One got pled down.
Okay.
So technically I'm a convicted felon,
Mm-hmm.
which I find really hilarious, because my first sponsor would be like, just to make sure I was kept in my place, he'd be like, dude, like, you don't even have a cool felony. It's like, you didn't even do anything cool. He's like, you're just an idiot. You just got caught a bunch. He's like, you didn't beat anyone up. You didn't rob anyone. You didn't steal anything, He's like, you're just an idiot. I was like, I know. But the red flags were there, and to not talk about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, would be doing myself a real disservice. But the reality is, through all that, I've been court ordered to go to AA since I was 18 years old, and I got sober at 25.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wanted nothing of what Alcoholics Anonymous had. I was the guy who would leave 10 minutes early so I could go buy beers at the gas station across the street and wave to the people coming out of the AA meeting as I was walking out with my beers. Because, I'm like, well, I'll show them, and really that, looking back, that's me hitting myself in the hand with a hammer and being like, see how that hurts you, like, when really all I'm doing is, just hurting myself. The idea, so like, do we talk about the steps in here? Like,
Whatever you want.
okay, so
Let
like,
it go where it goes.
so like, step 1 in Alcoholics Anonymous, that admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. I fully had conceded to my innermost self by the time I was, 25, right at the very end. I was like, I am definitely an alcoholic, 100%, and I wore it like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is awesome. This is who I am. I tried to get addicted to opiates.
Oh God.
I tried. I did OxyContin like 8 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, I actually don't like this
At all.
Yeah. Well, I would either fall asleep or I'd throw up. And I was like, this doesn't seem very much fun. Like,
Not at all.
I mean, at least if I'm going to throw up, I might as well make a night out of it, and, have some booze, and the uppers were a lot more my thing.
Same.
But the idea that my life was unmanageable was something that I was not willing to accept.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, I was living in a house with a friend of mine. The house actually belonged to my father. I was paying rent there, which really meant I wasn't paying rent at all. All the utilities were, owed for back months, getting ready to get shut off. I could work maybe 2-3 days a week. I'd wake up in such bad withdrawal. I wouldn't be able to go to work. So far under the poverty line, it wasn't even funny. I don't know if I've ever, once again, if my family's listening, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I've ever really told them this, and I did it for a specific reason. But I got my 3rd OUI, and I got bail. I bailed myself out of jail. I walked home, and I went back to that house, and it was, an utter disaster, as it always was. And I called my dad once I got my phone turned back on, and I was like, hey, I think I'm out. They basically told me to kick rocks, and they were like, you're on your own now. I was like, I'm out. I think I'm going to sit, I'm going to take a week and think about my life, that's like alcoholic code for like, I'm just going to get blacked out drunk at my house for a week. That's precisely what I did. There were some pills involved. And I decided that, me being on this planet probably just wasn't a good idea. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to take my own life, and it didn't work. And that last day was when finally, like, because the booze wasn't working anymore, I wasn't able to get the effect that I had wanted, and it didn't matter how much I drank. I mean, I would drink Bacardi Clear, by itself. Mixer was just, that was just wasted space and wasted money. I didn't have the money to pay for Mixer. And it just stopped working. It didn't, no matter how much I drank it, I couldn't get drunk. And I wanted the noise in my head to stop, and it didn't work. And I broke down. I called my roommate. I had him take me to detox. That was the third time I went to detox. I should have gone to detox many more times than that. I preferred to ride it out at home. Wow. Which hindsight, that was a really stupid idea.
Yeah.
But the funny thing, so no one had explained to me the disease of alcoholism, even at that point. So I go to detox, right? And I'll never forget this. They did my blood work. And I walk in there like I own the place, and I'm like this scrawny little, like, I weigh like 140 pounds, like probably wearing clothes that I've been wearing for I was all but homeless, and they come out, and the doctor comes out, and this is like one of the first like God moments in my life. I didn't realize it at the time, but he comes out and he was like, "Do you have a death wish?" And I was like, what is he like? I didn't tell anyone, right? And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I knew that if I told them that I had tried it in my life, I would have been staying in there a lot longer than 3 to 5 days. So, he was like, listen, he's like, we found this, and this in your blood, right? Your BAC was 0.42. You walked in here. You filled out the paperwork.
Wow.
And they're like, no one was the wiser. And so what I did was I started the old game that I'd play in detox and be like, hey, I need something, help me, please. And they start feeding me more pills, and they're like, do you want to die? And, he was like, you're a smart kid. You have been, I remember you've been here before, and you probably should figure this out. And I knew I was looking at like some pretty serious charges. And so they laid pamphlets of rehabs. I'll never, and I'm like, all these look like they're terrible. It's like, I don't want to go to any of these. But there was one with a pool, and I opened that one up, and I saw they had ping pong, and I was like, well, it's June. I was like, I'll go hang out by a pool for 30 days. It's in the mountains in New Hampshire. They got a ping pong. I like playing ping pong. And so I was like, all right, because I knew I was facing charges, and, like a letter from that rehab might, help me like either stay out of jail or maybe a lesser sentence. So I was like, all right, like I'll sing their little song, I'll do their little dance. I'm really good at that. And so I picked that one. And when I got to that rehab, they'd filled the pool in, and they took the ping pong table out because 2 people got caught having sex on it.
Nice.
And I was like, where am I? Like, what is my life come to? And so they started to outline the disease of alcoholism, right? And so we talk about like the threefold disease, and these things that like I'm about to mention, like as I stay sober longer and I think back about like what it was like, the flags were there, the progression was there, because this is a progressive disease, right? So I have an allergy to alcohol, right? Well, that's
we break out in handcuffs.
Yeah, basically, like, and I was like, yeah, you know what, that checks out.
Yep.
I drink a lot, and there's no telling what I'm about to do, right? And I have a mental obsession, right? A constant or reoccurring thought that does not respond to reason, or sane thought. So like the allergy, I can remember when I did work, I'd get out of work and I would buy maybe some beers, and I'd definitely buy some booze, and I would chug the first one, and it was just like, it was like someone put a warm blanket over me, right? That's the allergy. And then the obsessive piece is what I talked about in terms of just never like wanting more of it, right? I always wanted to try and find the exact like mixture, of what would make me feel okay. And then I had that, like what we call it, the hole in the soul, like the spiritual malady, right? Like it's what caused me. So I did those things, right? I did all those things. I'm guilty of them. You know, I've got the court documentation to prove that I'm guilty. But the idea that my morals and beliefs and ideal system was so far out of whack, you know, I believed that I was a family man. I believed that I was, you know, I was a good partner, even though I didn't have a partner. No one wanted to be anywhere, like, you know, within 10 feet of me. But I would have made one.
Yes.
You know, I definitely would have made one. I was a hard worker, even though I worked, you know, 2 or 3 days a week. But I believed all these things, like with my full every fiber of my being, you know,
the hero in our heads.
Yeah. And that, you know, that to me was the spiritual malady in terms of, you know, those beliefs, morals, and ideals. And I realized, and it was taught to me, that like I needed to reorder those and reorganize them. You know, we talk in AA about having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps. Well, you know, I did the steps and I had a result. I had an ordering and reorganization of my beliefs, thoughts, and ideas that caused me to think in a different way. And it's, I don't know if I said this already, but like in my time being sober, like what I do know is that I have stayed sober in spite of myself.
Yes, absolutely.
Because doing the steps is great. And my sponsorship family, we do the steps every year. And I just finished 5, 6, and 7 last week. And I'm getting ready to go to amends. And, you know, it's great to do them every year. I work at 10, 11, and 12, and I'll explain more a little bit about that. For those people out there who might not, you know what I'm talking about. Like if I'm speaking Chinese to you right now, like that's okay. We had to start somewhere. I had to start somewhere. And I had to start at like a much, you know, much further down, you know, as far down as you could go. Cause I'm a smart dumbass and I need things explained to me like, you know, like I'm 6.
You had mentioned something in as you were speaking in regards to your thinking and your drinking. Can you talk a little bit about, is alcoholism a thinking disease or is it a drinking disease?
Well, I mean, for me, alcoholism is a thinking disease, you know? So like to put it into perspective, the night I got my 3rd OUI, I had gotten my license back about 2 months prior. I'd lost it for 5 years prior to that because I didn't breathalyze. And that was the 2nd OUI. So 19 to 20, I lost it. 20 to 25, I lost it. And then I lost it immediately, like 60 days after I got it back. And I was at home. It was like a Monday night. I had found this cool little red sports car that I'd worked on and got it up and running because I was like, I'm done. I'm moving on with my life. You know, we're only up, you know, and moving along from here. And a friend of mine came over and I had just started drinking. I had taken a couple pills and, you know, he was like, hey man, he was like, we should go. It's this town called Boothbay Harbor. It's really famous in coastal Maine. And Boothbay Harbor is like a half hour from me. And he's like, and I wasn't going to drive. I knew I was going to drink that night, you know, and he was like, we should go to Boothbay. He's like, you just got your license back. We're going to take that little red sports car down there. We're going to go to the bars. We're going to find, you know, some female companionship. He's like, we can go back to my house. He lived in Boothbay. And he's like, you can just sleep at my house. And he'll go into work the next morning and nobody will be the wiser. You know, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is a really bad idea. This is a terrible idea. Like,
and then you get behind the wheel.
The evidence shows that this is not going to work out well for me. And I know that. And then this other thought came into my head. And that thought was, well, F it, let's go before I change my mind. And that's all it took, you know. You know, I don't believe, Stella and I were just talking about this on the way down, you know, the slogan in Alcoholics Anonymous of think through the drink. I personally don't like that. I know, because like case in point, just to that story that I spoke about, like I thought it through and I still did it. I still did it, you know? there's a gentleman at the rehab that I worked at, or that I went to, sorry. And he came up with he had this he must have rehearsed it. It was like perfect. And it's how you explain like the mental obsession, right? So he approached us in a class one day and he was like, listen, he was like, if Big Pharma came out with a pill, right? A pill that you take every day and you can drink in safety, would you take it? And I'm like, absolutely. Hands down.
That's all
you
I
know?
wanted.
That's exactly.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I probably would too. And he's like, and if you're anything like me, you'd probably be taking that pill. Things would be great. But then that thought might creep into your head. Well, if one works really well, what happens if I take two? I bet I can drink in even better safety. I bet if I crush that pill up and snort it, I'll probably be really safe. And you know what? I bet if I freebase that pill, then I'm really, really safe in drinking.
Yeah.
That's why, for me, it's a thinking disease.
Yeah.
The allergy, that's just a byproduct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was going to ask you about getting sober, right? We're sober now. And first of all, I do want to acknowledge that Justin's family's on. And
I
they,
see that.
okay. So we can say hello to them.
Hi, guys.
And I think she said it was Myrtle Beach. She's yes.
Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
I love it.
Me too. So now we get sober, right? And if people are thinking, well, how did you stay sober for 24 hours? Right? How did you do it the first 24 hours? Someone's out there right now trying to put the bottle down. How did you do 24 hours without a drink?
Well, what I can tell you is that the first, 30 days, I was in an inpatient rehab.
Yep.
And while I could leave anywhere, like I could leave at any time, it wasn't jail. I could have walked out of there. From that botched suicide attempt, like I knew that something was going on, and my own thinking did have sufficient force at that point in time to hold me there for 30 days. And I remember when I was about to get discharged from there, they brought up sober living.
Yeah.
And they initially wanted to send me to Massachusetts. And I told them absolutely not. Nothing against Mass, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to Mass. Well, so even at the end of that 30 days, I had gone through, steps 1 through 7, right? But there was still this thought in my head that, if you relapse, it's a hell of a lot harder to get back to Damerscott, Maine, from wherever they were going to send me in Massachusetts than Portland, which was the secondary option. And I was like, it's either Portland or I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, even at 30 days sober, I was still, being a little brat about it.
Were you having the obsession for alcohol within those 30 days?
I believe I was.
Okay.
It's, it's hard to look back on it now.
Yeah.
Actually, what's interesting, I just thought of this. So when I went to that rehab, my dad just like threw all my dirty laundry in a garbage bag and was like, here you go. Here's your clothes for rehab. And they had laundry there. So I start doing my laundry and everyone's doing laundry there. And there's just like 2 washers and dryers. Right. And someone had taken my laundry out and put it on top of the washer and put their stuff in the dryer. And as I grabbed my laundry, a bag of weed fell out. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, boy, I wish I'd had that 2 weeks ago or whatever. And I stuffed it in my pocket. And it felt like a burning hot rock in my pocket. Like it was like 1 billion degrees as I put it in there.
Yeah.
And I took it back to my room. And I remember walking outside like I was going to smoke a cigarette after lights out. And I was like, I could smoke this right now. I could. It's been through the wash. It's probably going to be awful, but I could. And something came over me. It definitely wasn't me. And I emptied it out. I dumped it into the bushes.
Yeah.
And threw the baggie away, ripped it up into 1 billion pieces because I was super paranoid. The reason I say that is simply because, you asked how did I stay? I wanted to drink and I wanted to use.
Yep.
What happened though was I started doing the steps in that rehab.
Nice.
And I did a 3rd step, we turn our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power as we understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant. I got down on my knees, held hands with a bunch of random strangers in this chapel that I've been there for a week. we said some words and like, they're like, that's it, you're done. And I'm like, what did we even do?
Mhm.
You know, that's why I say like it worked in spite of me, because
Yep.
me under my own volition, I would have tried to smoke that entire bag of weed, you know, that night,
Ugh.
you know, and it could have been anything if I'd found it, you
Yep.
know, insert your favorite drug here, you
Mhm.
know? And so moving out of rehab, right? Like there were some nights, you know, like when my mom got really sick and, you know, right before she passed away, like, I'd be in my sober house and like, God, this is too much. I can't handle this.
Mhm.
You know, I want to go and drink. And I'd be lying if I said just as many times as I prayed through it, you know, and did what they teach here in AA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say, you know, some nights I just realized that, you know, wow, like I'll have to pack all my stuff up. I just bought this bed.
Mhm.
I don't want to lose this bed. You
Mhm.
know, like this is just really inconvenient, but I'm probably just going to go to bed and hopefully tomorrow's a better day.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I say that because, you know, we talk about like, if you ever come to an AA meeting, you talk about being like spiritually fit, you know, like, well, you know, everyone when they speak in AA talks about the high points, you know,
Yep.
not a lot of people talk about the low points,
Right.
you know, and for those people out there listening, you know, to not touch on those, right? Not be like, yeah, you know, for the first little while, I wanted to drink. I wanted
Yeah,
to use,
same.
you know,
My therapist is like, don't let the thought last
Mhm.
longer than 3 seconds, because you
Yeah.
get that hamster on the wheel and it's going to
Right.
get some
Yep.
momentum.
right.
So like the first year of sobriety, I walked around looking like I had Tourette's, because every 3 seconds I was like, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Like, don't let it get its momentum,
Yeah.
you
Right,
know?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
you really need to start making the switch of the
Mhm.
way that we think.
Well, I think the big thing for me too was beginning to help others.
Amen.
Because I would sponsor people, and I'd sponsor people just coming back, you know, or coming there for the first time.
Yep.
And I would see the struggles that they were going through,
Yep.
you know, and that had sufficient force for me to say, wow, you know what? Like, I know I will go there.
Yep.
I know I will, if I drink, I will be that guy,
Yep.
you know, and it's not a matter of if, it's more of a matter of when.
Right.
Um,
And you've had traumatic experiences where you didn't drink.
Yeah.
You lost your mom.
I lost a
And,
parent.
and you didn't drink.
I'm a cancer survivor.
Amen. I didn't know that.
I mean, it was like cancer light, but
Yeah. Who
you know,
cares?
it
Cancer's cancer.
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
And you
And
know,
it sucks.
it does suck.
Yes. F
You know,
cancer.
Yes.
Mhm.
My sponsor now, like, so when I write, it's called fear inventory.
Yep.
And we talk about reliance on a higher power and fear inventory. And my sponsor always has me write the exact same thing, right? Every single time. And it's that I'm not allowing God to protect and care for me in a manner that I just can't do for myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so what I had to come to terms with was that even though these thoughts might occur, you know, what does it say in our text? You know, when these things occur, we watch for them,
Mm-hmm.
we ask for them to be removed, and then we resolutely turn to someone else and see who we can help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
And make amends.
and make amends.
Yes.
You're right. And for me, that has been the way that I stay sober.
Amen. Amen.
You know, it's a really simple program.
Yep.
It is, and
For complicated people.
for complicated people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I always look at it as like I work in sales,
Yep.
so like getting sober is a value proposition.
Yep.
And a value so that the price, right,
Yep.
versus the benefit. The
Yeah.
benefit has to outweigh the price. If the benefit outweighs the price, then guess what? You're going to stay sober. So the price is you got to be a little uncomfortable for a little while. Some people
Yes.
just can't handle that.
I know.
But the benefit or the thing that you get in return is a lifetime
Yeah.
of happiness, freedom, and joy.
I
And it's
know.
not always going to be happiness, freedom, and joy. You
I
know, I
know.
have bad days too, but
Yep.
you know, you have to learn how to balance it.
Yep.
You know, and how to make getting sober appeal more than the pain.
That's right.
So like I'm trying to come full circle around your question, but
Yep.
you asked, okay, like how did you stay sober that first little bit? Like, well, the last time I drank, I tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
And they say alcoholism is a progressive disease. Well, it doesn't progress much further past that.
Right. Death, jails, institutions,
Yeah.
institutions, jails, and death.
So
Yes.
I had to concede to my
Yeah.
innermost self that if I drink again, I will kill myself.
Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah.
and I won't mess up this time.
Yeah.
So like for me to drink is truly to die.
Yes.
And they say that the first step is the only step that you got to do perfectly. And that's how I stayed sober in the beginning.
Nice.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hear. So ever since I said, I'm having Stella on the show, my husband keeps going, Stella. And I'm like, all right, don't make me hate her name before she even arrives. And he was even screaming it in the parking lot. I'm like,
my God.
haven't met her yet. But anyways, we're going to take a quick break. And we're going to come back and hear from Miss Stella. And we'll read and figure out what's going on here so we can comment. Also, I want to let people know, if you want to call in, you can call in to speak to these two beautiful souls. The number is 978-659-0072. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Haven of Hope is a faith-based 12-step recovery home for women seeking a loving and structured lifestyle to help them persevere over addiction. Our sober living house offers women an opportunity to gain life skills, coping mechanisms, and personal growth so they may return to their home or working field as productive members of society. Haven of Hope's approach is based on fostering a structured, faith-based life with a core component being the 12 steps from the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, for with God, all things are possible. Contact Haven of Hope at havenofhopemethuen.org or call 978-258-3982. That's 978-258-3982, or visit us at 82 Union Street in Methuen.
Hi there. My name's Phil Leahy, and I do the Empty Chair show here. And as much as Fran and I have enjoyed doing this show, our real passion is with where it all began, the Circle of Hope, my support group for the families of addicts. I learned a long time ago that dealing with an active addict is just too difficult. So we invite you to join our group, the Circle of Hope. Give me a call, 978-886-2949, and you'll see our banner on the show anyway. And give me a call, find out what it's all about. If you don't think you're ready to sit into a group, Fran and I always invite people over to the house, and we sit down, have a one-on-one, and we talk about a plan you'll have to set up, how to deal with someone in active addiction, or just give you a chance to vent. So, if you or someone you know has dealing with someone in active addiction, reach out, give a call, take the first step. I promise you that it won't make it easier, but once you understand what it's all about, you'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. So again, 978-886-2949. Just ask for Phil. I'm always available 24/7. Thanks, and we'll see you on the Empty Chair. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to the second half of the show. And before I forget, just because I saw, Phil Leahy, who is my mentor, my right-hand guy that I adore, him and his wife. Fran's a little under the weather, so if people could just keep her in your prayers right now. She's under the weather. And also Phil's daughter, Colleen's a little under the weather right now. They were at an event together, so I'm not saying anymore, but keep them in your prayers. And Franny, I know you're listening. I love you. So Miss Stella, welcome. Thank you again for taking the hour ride from Maine to come be here on the show, for saying yes without even knowing what you were signing up for.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And here you are,
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
How long are you sober?
I got sober December 27, 2019. So a little
Amen.
over 3 years.
Amen.
And,
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a miracle, man. I've
Yeah.
learned that it's an absolute miracle.
Did you have many tries before this last try? Or is this something that you just knew you needed to do?
Not even.
Right?
Not even. Well, I'll tell you about that. So I was not somebody who came in here and was like, please help me. I was not somebody who showed up at detox because I was like ready to get help. Honestly, I was high and I had no more options to get more drugs and I had no more money and I was offered drugs and then a ride to detox. And I wanted it so badly that I didn't even think past the getting what I wanted.
Yep.
And then when I arrived at the detox, I'm like, where are we? And he's like, detox. And I'm like, oh no. And no. I was so used to manipulating my way out of things that I didn't even come up with a plan how to do it. I just assumed like, no, I'm not doing that. And that's how I got here. It was like Eli says, like in spite of myself, because
and you never left, like you showed up and you've been here.
That's
a miracle. And that I want to bring to people's attention because people like to say in the programs, I don't know where they all came up with this, but we weren't saying this in 87 when I got sober. Relapse is part of the program. It actually isn't. It doesn't have to be. However, we love you no matter what, but that relapse could kill you. So.
I continued to hear that in the first for the first 3 months of my recovery. I on a daily basis kept thinking to myself, should I just relapse and get it over with so that I actually have a chance at getting this? Until someone said to me, they were like, hey kid, that doesn't have to be part of this, and not everybody makes it back.
And I'm grateful that it wasn't said in 87 because that's my thought process. I would have said, oh yeah, I can relapse because I can come back. Not walking it through because I'm not, right in the mind yet that relapse could cost me my life. So I'm so happy to hear that you have not.
And the next thing that guy said to me is like, I'm not surprised who goes. I'm surprised who stays. And I was like, it just like blew my mind. And I let go of that thought that relapse needed to be part of it then. So I mean, I grew up on a little island off the coast of Portland. It's called Peaks Island. It's 4 miles around, and
did I take the boat to it and ride my bike around it? Okay, because I'm like, I know that island. Okay.
And so I grew up out there. It was like a very tight knit community.
It has to be if it's an island.
And it's funny because like I hear everybody I hear a lot of people in the program say like, I knew I drank differently than other people. I didn't, and because we all drank that way. And when I got to the rooms of AA, they were all here, and I was like, what the fuck? No one told me that, like, this is where we're supposed to go. I just didn't know. I really didn't know that alcohol and drugs were like the source of my problem, because like I felt uncomfortable in my skin ever since I could remember. And that was long before I ever picked up a drink. And when I was 13, I tried to commit suicide because I just couldn't handle living in my mind and in my skin. And I hadn't even picked up a drink yet. I picked one up shortly after that. And that was the first time in my life I could live in my skin. And like all that, you're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. That just got real quiet. And I was like, here it is. And then, my teenage years were super chaotic. I was all over the place, mentally and emotionally, and like put my parents through hell. And I was like running away, and my mom was chasing me around.
How can you run away on an island?
Well, I take a boat to Portland and then just go. And, my mom would, spend almost a year running around the city of Portland with my school picture, asking if people knew where I was. And like, I now have a daughter who will be 15 on Sunday. And I am like experiencing firsthand the fear of like and the helplessness of like not being able to fix it all, And I actually texted my mom last week, and I was like, I get it now. Like
I was instant birth control for myself because my mother kept on saying, may you have a child just like you. So I says, I'm not having any, and I didn't. I wasn't going to go through what you're about to share.
No. So then I, you look
15, so the fact that you have a 15-year-old,
I have my son just turned 22. So,
oh God,
so 3 days after my 16th birthday, I found out I was pregnant, and my mom was 10 years sober when I was born. She's still sober. She'll be 49 years sober next month.
Amen. All right, Mom.
And I thought so I grew up thinking both my parents were in AA because my dad didn't drink. And my mom was in AA. So I just assumed they both were. And apparently, not. But so I had my son at 16. My mom showed up for me in the same way, the way that I've, I can only hope to show up for my daughter. And she said, whatever happens, we're going to do this together. And she showed up just supporting. And so I had my son junior year in high school. A couple years later, I met my daughter's father. He was a ground fisherman and lobsterman at the time, but both. And, we would drink hard on the weekends. And then I started working in the school system, and he had a business, and it was like, we're going along. We decided we were going to have a baby and get married. And shortly after my daughter was born, was painkillers, got into the painkillers. Oh. And that was like my first real experience of being physically addicted. Mm-hmm. And it was just like this downward spiral for the next 5 years. It was pretty vicious. And, I thought he was a problem. So I was like, I gotta go, I gotta get out of this. I gotta, and I wanted him to be the problem because that would mean I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the next guy to be the problem because that would mean it wasn't me. Mm-hmm. And, I got divorced after being together for 10 years and 9 months later, I'm meet the next guy and it's
like they say
right
next,
yep.
And the actors move and then the new actors come in.
Yep. And I just brought, my kids lived in chaos and his kids pretty much got left behind. And it was just this alcohol, it was a mess. Mm-hmm. And then finally about 8 months before, I had a DUI, we had a house fire, I had all this stuff. And I remember when I got the DUI, I lost, they dropped it down to a driving to endanger. I don't know how. My mom got a good lawyer, call my mom and she fixes it. And that poor woman has done that my whole life. And now she doesn't, thank God. And, but she shows up and supports just the way she always has. And so I got a DUI and I remember losing my license for 30 days and it was it shocked me. But even in that, I did not consider that I had an alcohol problem. I was like, wow, I made one bad choice and this is what happens. I had never been in legal trouble. I haven't since, thankfully, but I lose my license for 30 days after a year deferred disposition. And literally the day I got my license back, I go to work on the island because at that point I wasn't living there, but I was working out there. And I come back and I'm drinking and I'm driving and I'm on my phone and a state trooper pulls in behind me, corners me in the store. And all I could think is, who does this guy think he is? I picture what, and I'm not even considering the fact that I have just been through all of, just caused all this chaos, all this harm, all this damage because of alcohol, because of alcohol. Yeah. And alcoholism. And here I am drinking and driving again. I hadn't even been driving for 12 hours yet. And so that's what it looked like. I was just this messy and loud and sloppy drinker right from the beginning, blackout, pass out. And it just never looked any better. It just continued to get worse. And when alcohol stopped working, I drank a lot longer. And then I just switched to a different substance and then I'd switch back to alcohol. I'd have a 5 or 6 year period of whatever, something else. And then, the last 8 months, I picked up a crack pipe and I picked that up. This is the insanity that I now understand. I picked that up because, and I literally said, I know what it's like to be addicted to something. I'm never going to let anything control me again. I can smoke crack. And it gripped me like nothing had gripped me before. Because before I would still physically show up, I would be chaotic and I'd be a mess and embarrassing my kids and harming the people around me. But I was keeping everybody so far away that they couldn't quite figure out what was going. Some people definitely knew, but I kept my life really small, but and I kept my kids hostage through it all. And that last 8 months was just just dropped to my knees. I couldn't show up anymore. I couldn't hide it. I was just out of my mind. And right before I got sober, about a month before I got sober. So it was Thanksgiving 2019. My son looked at me, he was 18 and he just so afraid. And he said, Mom, I feel like I'm in survival mode. And he had been making sure his sister had eaten and making sure that she was not that I wasn't yelling at her. And he was protecting his sister for that time. And he did for her whole life, but especially during that time. And, I was not a safe person for them to be around and I did not take care of them. And And so he was like, he just looked at me stunned, and he was like, Mom, I feel like I'm in survival mode. And my daughter was 11 at the time, and she wrote me a letter. My house was not a safe place for people to process emotions and feelings, you know, for us to, there weren't tools to heal or any of that. And we weren't looking at what was happening. That I did not offer a safe space for that. And she wrote me this letter, and I knew it took a lot. And it said, I'm not sure if you love me, and I don't know if you've ever loved me, and every day I wake up and I want to die.
Ugh.
And that wasn't enough for me to get sober. I couldn't numb anything out after that, but it was not enough for me to get sober. And it was important for me to realize that this was not a matter of my love for my kids or anything else, but the power of this thing has me, just wrecked, leveled. 2 weeks later, I lost my job at a high school. And I went to my first AA meeting. I was not sober.
Did you lose it because of alcoholism?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Yep. And they were super kind, and they tried to help me, and I wouldn't accept it. I was like doing the victim thing. It's poor me because of this, and it's because of this, but I would not own any of it, and I wouldn't accept their support. And finally they just didn't have any options, and they were like, we can't have you here. And I'm gonna like fast forward through, but I ended up in the detox a few, right around Christmas. I ended up going to a treatment center. I did not plan on going to the treatment center. They brought my 18-year-old son and my parents in for family intervention. And when they read their letters, and my mom let me know that she was going to protect my kids from me if I chose not to go. It hit me hard, the reality for the first time, the reality of like, oh my God, this is really where things are at. And I was 100 pounds, and I was gray, and I was so broken inside and hopeless. And I just didn't know that there was any other way. I didn't know that life could be anything different than what it was. And I couldn't even handle living like that anymore. It was just at that place of every night I was going to bed saying like, please don't wake me up tomorrow. And when my mom read that letter, and they told me she was offering to send me to treatment or intervene with and protect my kids. When I looked up, I looked at my son, and all the fear and everything I just explained inside, I could see on his face. And I said, oh, I'll go. All right. And I had no idea what I was signing up for. And every step of the way of my recovery it has not gone the way I've planned. And that's why I'm still here.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
if I had done any step of this, if I had done it my way, I would I most likely would not be here. So I went to a treatment center. I went to a sober house. I was 2.5 months sober for my first time ever, and COVID shut the world down. And I learned hard that like I had to hustle for this. I was at a point then I didn't want to go backwards, but I didn't know what going forward meant. Luckily, they had opened the book. I had gotten into the steps since the day somebody opened this book with me. I haven't had a drink or a drug since. And I was insane. I couldn't sit still for a really long time. But I got a sponsor, and she really taught me the value of consistency and doing this on a consistent basis, no matter what. And she just loved me, and she just loved me through all this stuff. And a lot happened in the first couple of years. The most important thing I think is that, building my relationship with my kids when I didn't really know how to be a mom.
Yeah.
And the women in this program and fathers in this program and men have taught me how to do that. And I think the most important thing I did in that time was I allowed my daughter to have her own journey and her own healing journey, and not on my time. Mm-hmm. And when she was ready to re-engage in my life, she came back, and it's been we've progressively been working on that relationship since. I've really worked hard at showing up for her and learning how to do that, and then doing that to the best of my ability, and just really loving her wherever she's at. And she moved in with me full time a few months ago.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's beautiful. And it's she's almost 15, so I pray on a daily basis that I can just survive it, and that I can love her through it, and that she survives it. And it's up and down, but I'll get into so when I was 2 years sober, I was really just looking for a different experience. And I was looking for a new sponsor, not because I didn't love my other sponsor. I was just looking for ready for a change and stuff. And I wanted to have this like deeper connection with God. I wanted to understand how other people were connecting with God, and what really service in this program meant. Cause I saw people who were just free, and I'm like, how do you get that? And then I met Justin, and he was, living that. And he was like, and he brought me to, he brought me to church, and I don't really know what happens there, but I go there every Sunday. I love what's happening there. I feel so connected there. And we spent the next 4 months together, and he just like really blew my world up in a lot of ways. And my kids too. My kids really loved him. And he was just a really, really good man, good man. And then 4 months later, he relapsed and he overdosed in my house while I was at work, and my best friend found him. And she came to my work to let me know that he was what had happened. And she'd been my best friend for 27 years, and she was the person I called when I came into this program. She was 4.5 years sober at that point, and things got really dark. I didn't lose my faith in God in that time. My faith is really what has gotten me through it. And his family's faith is so strong. And I got to meet his mom, and it was like amazing. Yep. And I will say that not only did that happen, but 2 days after that, when I went into my basement, I found a loaded crack pipe. And in that moment, I knew I was going to be okay, because even in that moment, I didn't want anything to do with it. Amen. And I did exactly what I was taught to do, and that was to call and ask for help. And I really just followed my feet. And that time I followed what I had been doing. And luckily I had been in the middle of my program when this happened. So I just continued. I couldn't even put a thought together. So I just continued to put one foot in front of the other and kind of autopilot, do what I had been doing. And thank God that was recovery and following my faith. And, this last year has been, I don't even have really words for it. It's been quite a journey in itself. And I've just learned to really love people, like really, really, really love people right where they're at. And I try to show love and compassion to everybody I meet. And I work in treatment, so I meet people in all kinds of places who have done all kinds of things that they are ashamed of and carry. And really my goal in life, I don't really have like these big dreams and goals. My goal, my real dream is to, like, if I can give some love to everybody who comes across my path, then I feel like my life is worth it. So
Amen.
Yeah.
That is a powerful testimony. Absolutely. And we rejoice knowing that we will see him again. He's just not on this side, but in the next life we will be with him. Some powerful stuff. So alcoholism, they had that brochure of 40 questions to ask yourself if you're an alcoholic, and so if anyone's out there listening tonight, like, this is a true testimony that if you're struggling with alcohol, you don't have to drink. You just heard these two amazing stories of how you got through good times and bad times without picking up, without the relapse. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your vulnerability and your transparency. And I'm in awe over your story and very moved by it. And so thank you for being here tonight. So I want to thank everyone that's out there listening, especially the Stout family, for jumping on. And this will be available on iTunes, YouTube, Google. Like, you'll have this for the rest of your life, so you can put it with your portfolios. You can share it with people who didn't get to see it. And tonight, you two just brought a light into this room and showed people that recovery is possible. And for that, I'm thankful. So thank you for driving the hour to come be with me. And again, if you're out there listening and you're struggling, you don't have to do this alone. You have 3 individuals who will sit here who just testified that with each other we can get through anything. And most importantly, with God, all things are possible. Because without him, I lost my sister January 5th this year. And I think she took her life and because she couldn't get sober.
Yeah.
And I think, how do people get through it without God? Like, it blows my mind. Like, that is the only, you kept on talking about how your faith is the only thing that has gotten my whole entire family through this.
Yeah. And it's wild because, like, when God, the whole concept of God was introduced to me a few years ago, I mean, I was like, how could there be a God? All I've done is suffer.
Me too.
And that was it. And
Yeah,
so then
hated.
now at this
Hated.
point, it's
Yeah.
like,
Amen.
God's the
Peace,
only
love, and
way.
Jesus.
Yeah.
We'll show you the way.
Yeah.
So that's all we got for tonight, folks. I just thank you all for tuning in, for being part of this. I know you guys have a few messages going on from Jackie and everyone. And I think 3 weeks, Mr. Leahy will be here because it's school vacation and he won't be around. So in 3 weeks, turn in for another episode of This Empty Chair. Until then, if no one told you they loved you today, I love you. And if you need help, please reach out. Alone you can't. Together we can, and we will. Good night, everyone, and God bless.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.